Yeah.
Truthful answer to
I wrote some questions down. How does Hank introduce a song to the band?
Sometimes, different way, no certain way. Sometimes we would be there when he wrote it, and if not, when we would get to the studio, he'd say, boys, I don't think we're having any trouble with this one. It goes like this, and he'd sing through it, and then sometime we'd just turn around and just record it. Get it on one or two takes.
One or two takes.
Sometimes it would take more than that, but there have been times when we would do, I think Your Cheating Heart took like 2 takes.
2 takes. I had heard from someone that there were drums on that song. Is that so or not?
Not on that particular one, but on some of Hank's songs there were drums. Elijah had drums on it. Half as Much had piano.
Yeah.
And there might have been more than that one that had drums on it.
Who decided on when the solos come in and stuff like that? Whether it was going to be a steel or a guitar or a fiddle.
Well, it was usually something that he had in mind, or maybe Fred Rose would have in mind. And it was usually going to be the fiddle or the steel, one or the other. And sometimes the first 4 bars are easier for a steel to play. Sometimes it's easier for a fiddle to play. So they would just alternate it like that. If the intro to the song, the first part of it sounded better on the fiddle, that would be
would Hank decide usually?
Well, if he did, that's the way it would be. He'd say, Don, why don't you take this one off? Yeah, you know what I like. Use your own judgment. And he never did say play it like this. He said, just do me your thing. You know what fits.
Once you played it, when you did live performances, did it matter to him if you varied it, or was it always?
No, I stayed as close to the original as I could, but sometimes when you're playing ad-lib stuff, it's impossible to play it exactly the same way each time because you feel it differently from time to time. But I tried to play something that I could duplicate later.
You did?
Yeah, because I knew sooner or later I didn't have to play that same song again. I better lay something down that I can play again.
Did he give you direction as to anything, like how much he wanted you to stick to the tune or not, or?
No, on the up-tempo things, he said, you know what fits, and I played, you know what I played on.
As you now.
On the slower songs, I stuck pretty close to the melody. But on the up-tempo songs, I varied quite a bit. Played some of the stuff that I played was actually some riffs that I'd heard some of the big bands play, like the Woody Herman or the Artie Shaw bands. Some of those little 3-part harmony things, like I did on stuff like Move It On Up,
Yeah, that sounds like a big band riff.
Well, it's little riffs like a big band would use with a horn section, only much richer and bigger.
Did you listen to other types of music?
Oh yeah. I'm quite a buff of big band era. I like Woody Herman and Benny Goodman, Artie Shaw, and Woodchopper's Ball, and all
the Woodchopper's a good one.
The A-Train, Duke Ellington, and all.
Sure.
I've got a variety of music that I like. I like some of all kinds. I like anything that's pleasing to hear.
Yeah.
If it hurts my head or my heart, I don't like it.
It makes sense. It seems like a lot of country's rhythm and blues, which is the basis for the big band stuff, that was basically a form of blues, isn't it? Swing?
Yeah. Swing is just an improvisation on jazz. Country, it depends on the instrument that plays it. Some single string stuff that I might have played might have been something that Harry James would have played.
Really?
So the trumpet plays single notes.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
And so something that I would take a single note course on, it might get pretty close to something that the trumpet player would play.
You listen to a lot of music. Did Hank listen to anything but country? Or who did
Yeah, Hank was a big Dixieland fan.
Dixieland, really?
Yeah. I am too.
Are you?
Yeah, and Hank liked Cajun music.
Cajun as well.
And before you came to where I was a minute ago, I was sitting there talking to some Cajun friends of mine. He was the one that played the fiddle.
Yeah, I talked to him, Terry.
Terry Huron.
Yeah, he gave me his card.
Well, he's a good one. He plays steel and fiddle too.
You know who I met a few weeks ago? Pete Fountain.
I've met.
Have you met him?
Yeah, he doesn't know me, but I know him. I know who he is.
He should know you. He does some songs you played on.
But Hank, he loved Cajun music, and the Cajuns loved him too.
He did.
They worship Hank Williams in Louisiana.
Yeah.
And still today.
I was down there for the first time, and I heard jambalaya all over the place. Street bands too.
Yeah.
And do you remember? You mentioned that Hank. You watched him write some songs. Did you any specific ones you recall?
Well, I don't know how many I could name that I actually watched him write. I know Hey Good Looking was written between Nashville and Birmingham one Sunday. We left Nashville real early to go play a matinee and night show in Birmingham, and he wrote that on the way down there.
Really?
Did you ever hear a song called Weary Blues?
Weary Blues from way down.
He wrote that on the way to Evansville, Indiana.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, you like to drink? Done.
No thanks.
No, thank you, guys.
And there were others, like When I Get to Glory, I'm going to sing. Stuff like that he would write in the car.
Did he write with his guitar?
Not always, very seldom. He'd get an idea in his head, and he'd get a napkin or a brown paper bag and write the lyric, and then he'd remember the melody in his head so he could get to a guitar. See, we didn't have tape machines back then. We cut right onto the disc.
Did he have perfect pitch? You know?
No, he didn't have perfect pitch, but he
had a good ear.
Yeah, he had a good ear. Hank had quite a vocal range. He could sing real high or he could sing real low, and that made it easier for the steel guitar to play.
How so?
Well, if Hank was singing something real low, the steel would play real high, an octave higher. And if he was singing something real high, the steel dropped down and play an octave lower. So that way we didn't get one in one another's hair.
Yeah, sure. So there's a contrast.
It kept the steel and the voice separated in the range, vocal range.
When you talking about Hank's range over the 6 years that he was the bulk of his career, or I guess you knew him earlier, did you notice any change in his voice? In the records, they sound the same.
I didn't notice too much change in it. I noticed a change in some of the type songs that he started writing.
What do you mean?
One of the first songs that he wrote was a song called "I'm Praying for the Day Peace Will Come."
Yeah.
And that was recorded by Pee Wee King.
I heard that. Yeah.
But now when Hank sang it, it didn't sound like he sang later. If Hank was going to sing an Ernest Tubb song, he would sound like Ernest Tubb. If he was going to sing a Roy Acuff song, he would sound like Roy Acuff.
Yeah.
And Fred Rose said, Hank, what you got to do is find out where you want to sing. You don't need to sing like those guys. You need to find something in between that and sing like Hank Williams. And that's what he did.
Sure.
Now, he could still sing like Roy Acuff, or he could still sing like Ernest Tubb, but he combined that and got right down the gut, right down the middle, and that was Hank Williams.
Was he friendly with Acuff?
Yeah, they were friends.
Because I heard that he was very friendly with Ernest Tubb, but I had heard sometimes Acuff had a less tolerable view of.
Well, see.
Some of Hank's issues.
When they were going to bring Hank to the Grand Ole Opry, I'm sure he was discussed like all artists are. If they're going to bring a new artist up there. Well, Roy had heard, or he knew firsthand maybe, that Hank was at times a drinker. Would miss a show, would go on drinking and stuff like that, and he didn't hesitate to object to him. He wanted them to think seriously before you bring this guy in, what he does, some of the things he does. And I guess Roy was right. Of course, he did it too.
He did.
I remember when Roy would do that, drink, and so did Ernest Tubb.
Oh yeah.
In later years, neither one of them did. I played for Ernest Tubb not too long before he died. I played for Ernest the year 1974. And at that time, he hadn't had a drink in 15 years. But he used to be a drinker. Roy Acuff was a drinker. And they were as bad or worse than Hank was.
I'll bet.
But anyway, when they were discussing whether or not to allow Hank to come to the Grand Ole Opry, it's a family show, and I'm sure they were looking at the best interest of the show. But they did it too.
Yeah. Did you have a sense that, you know, when you were playing with Hank, that he would be this big and sort of famous? Did you realize you were working for someone?
I knew there was something going on that's different.
You did?
Yeah, because I'd never seen anybody get ovations like he got. And we'd play a song on the Grand Ole Opry, or when we would end a show or a concert like this. Heck, after that last song, it'd be 5 minutes before they'd quit applauding.
Really?
And you don't know whether to pack your guitar up and go, or you don't know whether you're going to be playing it again. So a lot of times I just stand there like a wart on a log, not knowing whether I'm going to have to play that song again or not. And usually we would.
You would.
Yeah. So it was something that I never had seen that before, and I said, God, when you're hot, you're hot. You know?
Yeah.
Because he was showing me something that I'd never seen before.
Were you impressed with his songwriting ability? I mean, at the time, were you pretty, wow, this guy's writing?
Well,
because you worked with a lot of people.
I have a way of playing, and it seemed to me that he was writing something for me to play, as much as he was writing something for him to sing. Because when Hank finished the song, I could hear that and look at that and say, I can play it already, you know. Without any rehearsal. We just need to know what key.
Did he solicit your opinion when he was writing?
Sometimes.
You were honest with him if you didn't like it?
A lot of times we kid each other, you know. He said, Don, give me a line. Today I passed you on the street.
Yeah.
And I said, and I smelled your stinking feet.
Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah. You know, stuff like that. But sometimes he'd say, what do you think? And he'd sing. And I'd tell him if I didn't like it, I'd tell him. Usually I didn't dislike it to the point where I'd make a big point out of it. See, I don't like it worth the time.
Right.
I'd say, wait, is that all you got? You know, maybe try that again or something. You know. And I think he valued that. Of course, he valued Fred Rose's opinion much more than he did anybody's. And so did I, really.
Did you work with Fred a lot? Or was it usually Hank and Fred, or did he instruct the band?
When we were getting ready to record and stuff like that, I would be subjected to their bantering back and forth, you know. Sometimes Fred didn't like, and Fred was much more vocal than anybody else that tells me he don't like it.
Sure.
He said, this damn thing stinks, you know. Like when Hank was recording Love Sick Blues, it breaks meter. The song breaks meter. And he said, we got to get that thing to meter. You're holding that note too long. And Hank said, Fred, when I run on to a note that I like, I'm going to hang on to it long. And Fred would say stuff like, well, I'm going to get me a cup of coffee. When you get through with this thing, we'll record something. And when Fred got back, I wasn't on that record. But he had recorded the Love Sick Blues. And, of course, Fred ate crow, you know.
Yeah. Did you think that would be a popular hit?
Well, it was one of the first time that I became aware of it, because I wasn't with him during that time. Because he was in Shreveport, and I did not go to Shreveport with him.
You didn't.
And all of a sudden, every few minutes on the radio, I was hearing Hank Williams sang "Love Sick Blues," and it was already a big hit before it ever crossed my mind that there was a possibility it would be a hit. You know, it was just a big success.
Can you also tell me, on one of the Mother's Best shows I heard you played something, and Hank said before it, well, how many chords are it? I think you said there were 4 or 5, and he said, okay, I'm out of that one. And when you finished, he said, I have the tape with me. He said, next time you do one of those conglomerated chords, hang out on land, let me know where you're going.
Yeah.
So I can... Was he averse to the chord changes, or was
that was
not
just
like...
his way of saying, you pull one on me, I don't know. You pull one, I don't know. You know. No, he didn't change it.
Was he a good guitar player?
No, not really. He could play what he was going to sing.
Yeah.
He could play for his own self. But if I were going to do an instrumental song, I wouldn't hire him for the guitar player.
You wouldn't?
No.
Did he did a solo on Bucket's Got a Hole, right?
And he broke meter all the way through.
Yeah.
And I just look at him and shake my head.
You can't do anything about it. Why did he choose to do it then? Was it just a
Well,
whim?
he said, I ain't done that before. Let me try this. Let me try that.
When you guys played live, did he do solos that you recall?
On that,
Or just on that?
I don't recall him ever doing anything else.
What else did he play? I know he played fiddle.
Very badly, and he played LG. How you doing? Yeah, doing a little interview here, and then I'll talk to you in a few minutes.
Go ahead. So he fiddle not well.
No, not very good. And he played a little bit of guitar other than the open chords that he played, and but nothing else.
He didn't play piano or harmonica or anything, just or mandolin.
No, I never saw him play anything like that.
Before you said that his voice didn't really change, but some of the songs did. Did he develop as a musician?
He developed as a singer.
As a singer, mostly.
As he went along. And I guess his open string rhythm was just not as good in the beginning as it was
Really?
the last. But when he found his niche between Ernest Tubb and Roy Acuff, his voice took on a little. He got a little bit lower register.
Yeah.
Became a little bit lower instead of being real high.
How would you describe the Hank Williams sound? Because I guess you were instrumental in defining it, right?
Well, it was kind of like I mentioned a little bit earlier. The steel played a big part, I guess, in Hank's. Even before I started recording with him, the steel was always a dominant instrument, and it complemented what he would sing. He would sing a line, and the steel would fill up till he sang another line. You know? And to me, that's the purpose of a backup musician.
To complement the main.
Yeah, when a singer sings a line, let the steel play something until he starts singing another line, and then lay out.
So he must have considered you, from what you tell me, he gave you not a lot of feedback in the studio. He must have just trusted.
He said, how it goes, or he'd let you know that you had leeway. Give me something there, you know what? He'd say, give me something here, you know what goes, you know what fits.
Did he change it, or did he just be? Well, what about the songs that have vocal backgrounds?
They only
like calling you or move. Well, you moved on.
Well, that was just chant. The musicians in the band would sing that, or
and he would direct it.
Directing me, answer me here, or something like that. He'd sing a line, we'd answer him, and sing with him. It wasn't a complicated thing. It didn't require any direction.
But then, do you think his best work was toward the end or not? I mean, some people say the last couple of recording sessions were his best work.
Well, I would say yeah, because some of his biggest songs were on his last 2 or 3 sessions. Your Cheating Heart and Kalijah cut. He died January 1st, 1953, and those 2 songs came out back to back in April of 53. So we never played Your Cheating Heart on the stage.
You never did, no.
Nor Kalijah. We never played Kalijah.
How about I'll Never Get Out of This World?
That's the last song that I recorded.
That you recorded with him. Did you ever do that one live?
I never have done it since.
You haven't? Is that particularly sentimental? Yeah, particularly.
You know, I said he's got 140 other songs I can play. I don't want to play them.
What do you like to play, and what's your favorite?
Cold Heart's my favorite one of all this. And I love like Mansion on the Hill. I love I'm So Lonesome I Could Cry. May You Never Be Alone Like Me.
Yeah.
If Today the Sun Should Set on All My Hopes and Dreams.
Yeah.
They'll never ever take her love
from me. Did you listen to a lot? Have you subsequently listened to a lot of the ones that he didn't professionally record, just the acetates? Have you heard a lot of that stuff? Some of it's pretty good. Just one other topic. I won't keep you because it sounds like people are waiting for you. But tell me a little bit about the Mother's Best, just because it sounds like from the few tapes I heard, it sounded like you guys were having a ball.
And we did about 7:15 in the morning. See, when this show was a live show, it was contracted as a live show for the Mother's Best Flower Company.
Right.
And we'd go up to WSM and at 7:15 in the morning, we'd play a live 15-minute, I believe, show. Well, when we were going to be going on tour, if we were going to be gone 5 days, we'd go up there one day it was convenient, when it was convenient for the studio and us, and do 5 15-minute shows. Then they'd play them at 7:15 in the morning. So we tried to make it appear that each one you heard sounded like it was coming to you over a cup of cold coffee, you know.
Was it fun?
Yeah.
Was that a fun period?
Yeah, everything was fun to me.
Really?
Everything we did was, we were going straight up all the time. Everything he did, every notch we moved was up.
Did you worry about him?
I worried about his drinking, because he was very frail and he had a touch of rheumatic fever when he was
I didn't know that.
Young person, and when he'd get on a drunk, sometimes he'd be on one for 4 or 5 days, and the only thing you could do, I don't care whether it was me or whether it was licensed doctors, the only thing we could do was get him somewhere and forbid him to get any more until he sobered up. And somebody had to do that. And there were times when us in the band,
you would.
We had a place there in Nashville. We'd come in off the trip, and if he was stoned, we wouldn't. I couldn't take him to the house. I had a family, you know.
Sure.
I couldn't take him to Fred Rose's house. Nobody wanted him. I couldn't take him to Audrey's house. She didn't want him. He was like that. So we'd take him. He called it the hut. It had some little, this sanitarium, and it had some little white buildings and bars on the window.
Really?
And we'd take him out there and put him in there for 3 or 4 days. One time I took him in there, and about 2 days later I come back out there and brought him some candy, comic book, and he said, "When are we going to get out of here?" I said, "Where you get this weed crap? I ain't in here."
So you were straightforward with him.
I said, "I ain't in here." He said, "Well, you know what the heck I'm here." I said, "I think they're going to let us out, probably."
Us.
But when he got sober, he was straight. He'd be straight for 6 or 8 months. He wouldn't touch anything.
Really? For long stretches?
Yeah.
And you felt like his material didn't suffer?
No, because he wrote everything he ever wrote was when he was sober.
He did.
He couldn't wipe his nose when he was drinking. He couldn't write. He couldn't sing. He couldn't do anything. But when he was sober is when it all fell into place.
Did you get the sense that most of the songs, like "I Can Never Be Ashamed of You," and were written about Audrey?
Well, as you look back on it, you say, well, it must have been. But Hank was just clever. He had a an idea what people wanted to hear. And he knew how to say it. And he would write these things that they could relate to.
And they were usually written in very short periods of time?
Yeah. Sometimes he'd attempt to write something and it wouldn't come off, as I say, and he'd lay it back and might never try it again. Sometimes he'd wait 3 months and he'd try it again. But sometimes he could write 2 or 3 in an afternoon.
What's the fondest memories you have? Was it live or road trips or?
Well, I enjoyed with Hank. Of course, when we were playing, it's a different story than it was when we were all been at home. We went fishing together, stuff like that, and there was none of this. I'm the boss and you're the side man. There was none.
It wasn't on the fishing trip.
There was none of that with Hank. He was
even in the studio.
Of course, there was no doubt in anybody's mind who the head man was. That was never a controversy. But he never pressed anything like putting you down or imposing.
Was he pretty humble about his ability?
Hank Williams never knew how great he was. He never knew he was great. He died never having
never realized
idea.
Really? How did you know that?
Well, it didn't excite him that it jumped 5 places in the charts this week. He'd say, "Oh, well, good," But I mean, he would have been in a good mood if it just jumped 2 places.
Really?
He wasn't hung up on fame. He had no idea how famous he was.
So it must have been a pleasure to play with someone like that.
It was. There were times when the working with Hank was pain in the butt, as we say.
Sure.
But there were, most of the time, there was not that stigma. It was fun. It was interesting. I was playing music that I love to play, the kind of stuff that I played with Hank. Some of which he did not write. He didn't write everything he recorded.
Right.
But whatever he would select to record was something that I couldn't have picked it better.
You have the same taste as him.
Yeah. That's the reason I'm still doing this at 70 years old.
I love listening to you. I listened to you 2 years ago here, and I'm really happy I got you on my guitar. And I'll tell you another thing is, you're the most approachable, generous person with your time, of anyone.
Well, I appreciate that.
I've met. I'd heard that as well.
I'm the same Don Helms that I was 50 years ago, only I'm 50 years older. I've still got friends that I've had for over 50 years, and I've tried my best to never lose one.
I'll bet you have. And last time I remember I asked you, what do you do in your spare time? You said, I see my grandchildren, I cut my grass, and I go to church.
Yeah.
And I thought, here's a...
Well, somebody said, what does it take to make a man happy? I said, get yourself a good wife and a good lawnmower and a good fishing boat. And if you can't make it with that...
We throw some music in there.
Yeah, well, but when I'm making music, I'm making money to do that with.
Right.
To go home and do that.
And enjoy your...
She's with me today.
Hazel, I'm going to come over and meet her.
She and I, our next wedding anniversary will be 53 years.
That's, in country music, that's a lot.
She and I have got a pact. It's not something we wrote down and signed and swore to, but when I get to where I'm struggling to play, if I get to where I can't hook it, she'll tell me.
Really?
I quit.
Are you still pretty juiced up now when you play? Enthused? Seems like you are.
I'm satisfied with what I'm capable of doing. It ain't any better than it used to be, but it's been good.
Yeah, it was pretty good back then.
I'm happy with that. If I get to where I can't hook it, Miss Hazel will tell me, and
that's a fact. You know what? Yeah.
And I'll hang it up.
I'll ask you one more question and then let you go. I'd asked a few people this. Do you remember where you were when you found out about Hank's death?
I was standing at the door to the dressing room at the auditorium in Canton, Ohio.
Oh, waiting. Did you hear it over a loudspeaker, or did someone come and tell you?
No, I got up at the hotel, ate breakfast and got dressed, and a singer named Autry Inman.
Named who?
Autry Inman.
Autry Inman.
He and I and Mr. Bamford, who was the promoter of that show, rode up there together. We checked in the hotel late at night, went to bed. Mr. Bamford got up early, had breakfast, went to the auditorium to check the box office and, you know, what promoters do.
Sure.
Autry Inman and I got up at a later time, ate breakfast, and went to the auditorium, and when I got to the door, Bamford grabbed me by the arms and just looked me right in the eye and said, "Hank would make it."
Did you know what he meant?
Yeah. I had dreaded that a long time, you know. There have been times when I go to his room, if he'd been drinking a lot, I would sometimes be afraid of what I might find. And he told me, he said, he just shook his head, and it devastated me.
Dude, I can imagine.
And it's something that I can hardly talk about.
Yeah,
50 years later.
Really?
Changed my life a lot. Having worked with Hank Williams.
I'll bet. And you seem like, of all the guys in the band, you were with him the most consistently, weren't you? Like you didn't throw the towel in and...
I was with him longer than any of the other guys, and so I had his interest was, I didn't work with Hank just to get the money, because heck, I got a problem. I was doing pretty good recording with other people because I had recorded with Hank Williams.
Right.
It was starting to afford me a lot of extra money, because there were people coming to me to play for them because I played for Hank.
If you listen to Hank, you can't not hear Don Helms, right? It was such a...
Well, I hope that I have added some identity to his music.
Absolutely, yeah.
If I thought that I had not, I'd hang it up.
Another question I just thought of, how often do you listen to Hank's music when you're home? Do you ever put your own, stuff you played on? Do you do that?
Occasionally, because people are constantly sending me stuff. And not long ago, a good friend of mine from St. Louis, he's quite a collector, he sent me the second one of the Pete Smith TV shows that I'd never seen.
You hadn't seen it till then?
And I sat down and watched that, and however I might have felt back then, I still feel.
Really? How do you feel when you're in your car or wherever, not at a Hank event, and you turn on the radio and you hear some of that music? Is that still neat for you?
Well, it's very flattering to hear some steel guitar player play some of the licks that I played.
Right.
And they do it today on artists like Brooks and Dunn have a few licks of that. Alan Jackson sound like a little Don Helms in there. I like that.
I'll bet.
Yeah, it's
And what about when you hear Hank originals? You turn on the radio and you hear yourself.
Yeah, it takes me back. When they refurbished the old Ryman Auditorium and redid that thing and was going to open it for the first time, they did a big country music spectacular called The Roots of Country Music. And they had a lot of people on there that played that kind of music. Bill Monroe was there. They asked Alan Jackson, they said, this whole thing is kind of a tribute like to Hank Williams and the Grand Ole Opry. Would you do a thing on here? He said, I'll tell you what I'll do. If you'll get Jerry Rivers, Don Helms, I'll sing the Love Sick Blues.
Wow.
And he did.
You can't ask for better than that.
And it really was.
So you're aware sort of that you're part of history.
Yeah, I'm glad. I'm glad that what I love so much was not in vain. If I had it all to do over again, I'd do identically.
You did.
Get a good wife, a good tractor, and a good lawnmower, and go to church.
And Hazel liked your career, you had enough time, and
Hazel and I went to
supportive.
school together in New Brockton, Alabama, in the same class all the way through school. And then I married her almost 53 years ago.
It's like a model story.
And she is
Photo of you.
the mother of my children. She's the grandmother of my grandchildren.
Yeah. What's
4. And then she's the great-grandmother of my great-grandchild. And I wouldn't take $1 million for her.
I'll bet. John, let me just do a photo of you. That's great. I'll do 2.
Okay.
There, really. Looks like my battery might be. Give me 1 second. I'm going to take this out of. Have a bad time to lose your batteries. I'll tell you, since I was listening to Hank, I thought, well, what does Hank listen to? And I got into listening to Ernest Tubb, so I went out and bought practically everything that Ernest Tubb did. That's some great stuff. Yeah, absolutely.
I played for Ernest Tubb, too.
Did you? Before 74 also.
In 1974.
Did you ever play with him earlier when you were playing with Hank?
Recorded with him a lot, and we did tours together. And sometimes wouldn't have a field player, I'd play for him.
Are you on any of the studio recordings?
Ernest, Letters Have No Arms, I'll Take a Back Seat for You, I played in the Red Foley sang, You Can Be a Man of Your Age. Several things that I did for the
Letters Have No Arms. What was the other one?
I'll Take a Back Seat for You. Unfaithful One. Why Don't You Fall Off and Love Me? That's the first record sessions that I ever did, even before I recorded it.
Really? Why Don't You Fall Off and Love Me? I probably have it because I bought practically everything that Ernest did. And they have all these collections.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna just do 2 of them. Okay. Okay. One, 2. Where's my flash? And one more, please.